Stay tuned.
Let's go, boys. Episode 191, Meat Boy MMA, the best kept secret in the space. If you're new here, smash subscribe. As always, scroll down to the comments for timestamps for specific locks for this week. And last week, Meat Boy, before we recap what's going on this week, last week was pretty successful. Another absolute Meatlock W for us, of course. Your boy went 4-2 overall. You went 3-3. Talk to us about the Meatlock, though. What do you think about the Iron Turtle? It was a pretty close fight, maybe a little bit closer than we had thought, but another easy light work victory. Meatlock for the boys. So what were your thoughts on Iron Turtle versus Tavares?
Yeah, very close fight, but hey, it's what we said. He was a lock and he pulled through for the boys. It wasn't the most dominant, one-sided, easy, but it was still easy. Iron Turtle is no joke. He is the real deal. And I hate to see Tavares go out like that. He's been lose after lose. But I think he's gonna be joining the BKFC pretty soon, and Iron Turtle is just getting better and better. It feels. He's a great fighter, and he's always fun to watch. He always brings the fight. That is for sure.
Yeah, he does always bring the fight. Like we mentioned last week, perhaps Brad Tavares is the future PFL GOAT for sure. But nonetheless, another Meatlock for us. Getting the balance, we are, what is that, 33% in the net positive lifetime. So you see the streak, you see the numbers. We're the only ones out here who post them front and center. But nonetheless, Meatlock streak will continue obviously this week. But before we even talk into it, what were your thoughts on the main event? Because honestly, besides the meat event, Tyra versus Royval, there wasn't too much to recap. Again, I went 4-2. You went 3-3. We both missed Morono. He did not show up in that one. I called Pat Slabatini over JSP. That was one that you obviously acknowledged the strengths of both guys, but ultimately went GSP. But talk to me about that meat event, Tyra versus Royval. You called that one, Meat Boy, plus 230. Royval cashed. Split decision victory for him. What'd you make of the outcome, and did you think that the split decision was deserved for your boy Raw Dog?
Yeah, no, Raw Dog's definitely got that 5 round experience, that gas tank. He is the real deal, and he kind of proved it. I think, I definitely had my doubts where, Tatsuro has not gone 5 rounds with a top level fighter like Royval, and it showed. But man, what we did learn is Tatsuro is no joke, and after this loss, it kind of makes it or breaks you, but I think this is going to make Tatsuro into a 10 times better fighter and become champ one day. Now he knows the level that he needs to reach, and I think he's going to excel, get better gas tank, and just level up so good where soon he'll be ragging Raw Dog to probably the BKFC, and then Tatsuro will be the champ of the division.
Yeah, for sure. We'll probably reflect on that fight as the best thing that happened for Tatsuro in his career, because I think the hardcores know how good Brandon Royval is, but I mean, he was still plus 230 dog. The odds makers were all over Tyra, obviously, and it was a good performance from both guys, but Royval really is that dude. He really is that good, and we anticipate Tyra to probably be on that same level probably within the next year, right? So great fight from both guys, but a great call from you going with the Raw Dog. But nonetheless, Meat Boy, you ready to swap us through? Because there's another Meatlock right on the street. You ready to go?
Yes, no, absolutely. Let's get straight into the lock.
Swap us through then. It's the homie, the Pit, Daniel Pineda, taking on a Meat Boy favorite, Darren Elkins, the Damage. How can you not love Darren the Damage Elkins? But we like Daniel Pineda in this one as a sneaky Meatlock over Darren Elkins, who is always historically tough. The guy is tough as nails, one of the more durable guys in the UFC, but we haven't seen him in over a year. And while, yes, the last time we saw him, it was a great performance, right? He fought downtown TJ Brown. He was a sizable dog, and he submitted him in the third round in a fight he was losing at times. But TJ Brown got the immediate cut and basically hasn't won a single fight since. And we haven't seen Darren the Damage in over a year now. And we know the Damage is a guy who, I mean, he wears that moniker proudly, Damage. And he's a guy who's accumulated more damage than maybe anyone. So you wonder at a year out of the cage, is that good for him? Or is it started to age his brain even more so, being so AFK from the cage? But we kind of think that the Pineda, even though he just lost against Nathaniel Wood, it was about 4 months ago, that was a close fight, right? It was a unanimous decision loss, and one that Nathaniel Wood definitely clearly got the victory in, but Pineda had his moments. I mean, Nathaniel Wood, who was arguably peaking in that contest, was in some critical danger in that fight against the Pit. So even though the Pit took the L and his UFC record's only 2-3-1, we like him as a slight favorite and an easy light work Meatlock in this one against Darren the Damage. So give us your best case, give us our best case on how we think the Pit is going to get this one done over the Damage. Is it going to be a 15-minute affair? Because the story about the Daniel Pineda fight most recently was that was only the second time in his career that the dude had even gone the distance, right? This is a guy with basically 40 plus fights, and every single one he was either winning by finish or getting finished himself. So the last two he's gone the distance. Do you anticipate this fight against Damage going the distance, or is he back to his finishing ways and the Meatlock cashes early and often?
Yeah, no, I think the meat is going to cash early and often, and I think Elkins is going to get snuffed first round. I think Pineda, he did lose his last fight, but he looked darn good versus a young whippersnapper like Nathaniel Wood. Nathaniel Wood is no joke, and I think Pineda, his grappling is top tier. He's going to be way stronger, way faster, better on the feet, better on the ground, and honestly, I think he's going to go out with a finished early and often versus the Elkins.
Yeah, and I can see that too. I mean, again, Darren the Damage, very durable, difficult to put out, but Pineda, when he has those finishing instincts, I mean, I think about that performance of the night submission he pulled over Tucker Lutz, or when he absolutely just brutalized Herbert Burns, who is truly awful, but nonetheless, the Pit absolutely smashed him start to finish, and he has clearly that finishing instinct. He does have the get finished instinct as well, but Darren Elkins, besides that downtown TJ Brown fight, hadn't finished a sandwich since 2021, and that was against Derek Meatboy Minner Dinner, who we know was probably throwing that fight anyway. So it's tough to put too much stock into Darren's finishes, and if he doesn't have a pathway to finish the Pit, then I think the Pit can either get the finish or the durable decision for sure. But it's one Meatboy where the odds makers are slightly leaning on the Pit. We obviously are meatlocking the Pit, but Tapology 61% is rolling with Damage, majority beige for Darren, 39% meanwhile going with the Pit, and about half of it is Brown for the KO. But what do you make of the 61% Tapology backers riding Damage and fading the Meat Boys?
Yeah, I do find that interesting. It's like I don't know if people have been watching the same thing we've been watching, but it is very interesting to see anybody fading Pineda in this matchup. Pineda's just going to be the better all-around fighter, and it is very surprising. But maybe they just started. I can't really judge the percentages or the people that voted on these. Maybe they just started watching the UFC, and Elkin's the name. Pineda's not a household name or been around as well known as Darren the Damaged Elkins. So maybe that's it, but I really don't know. It's kind of a head scratcher. I'm still trying to figure that one out.
Head scratcher for sure. You never really know what to make of those Tapology metrics, but you do know what to make of the Meatlock. So take it with a grain of salt. Salt bay it onto the steak. We're taking Daniel Pineda, the Pit, at minus 112, keeping it simple, throwing down an easy 112 to net 100. Get us that 109th Meatlock, I believe our third in a row, and increase that 33% threshold, Meat Boy, because we're only climbing it straight to the grill nonetheless. So any last thoughts on Pineda? I'm gonna officially go Pineda by close but unanimous decision. You like him by finish?
Yeah, I do like him by finish early and often too.
Let us know in the comments if you're rolling with the Meatlock. Are you taking the Pit, or are you riding with the Tapology Timmies and rolling with Damage Elkins? Swap us through the Meat Boy because it's a heavyweight slobber knocker. Two absolute busts in this one. It's Austin Lane, the plus 300 dog, the 12-5-1 fighter who has yet to pick up a win in the UFC and was actually a former fifth round NFL draft pick who made his way through the MMA circuit, gets on to Dana White's Contender Series, gets a beautiful first round finish, but since then has been getting absolutely steamrolled by actual UFC heavyweights. And now he's fighting Robelis to Spain, who prior to his most recent fight, this guy was all the rage, right? He was picking up first round finish after first round finish, and in every single fight, they were essentially ending within the first 30 seconds, right? His first career fight went about 5 minutes, but beyond that, KO finish in 12 seconds. The next fight, 3 seconds. The next fight, 4 seconds. And then in his debut against RuneScape boy Josh Parisian, he finished him in a performance of the night in 18 seconds. So Robelis walking through everyone, runs into Waldo Cortez Acosta, and Waldo essentially just takes him down 3 times, holds him down for 15 minutes, and just like that, Despain is no longer undefeated and got absolutely smoked by a guy who wasn't even a wrestler. So In this one, he's taking on Austin Lane, who himself loves to get KO'd and who himself doesn't have much of a grappling game. So to me, it makes sense that Robelis is back to his inflated odds, minus 380. Do you think there's any life for Austin Lane in this fight, or similar to Janata Deniz, similar to Justin Tafa, Austin Lane's going in there to eat one punch and take a nap?
Yeah, man, Austin Lane is definitely one of those guys that I've definitely had possibly some of the worst takes of all time on. I was pretty high on him. He was ex-pro athlete, football player, strong guy. But you know who kind of he's starting to remind me of,
Greg Hardy.
um, is Greg Hardy. And I think he is a Greg Hardy 2.0. Austin Lane is definitely getting snuffed once again. I got sold on Greg Hardy also. He looked good. He threw like a quick jab one time, and I was like, oh my God, pro athlete. He looks pretty darn good for just starting. He's going to be real good. Little did I know he's a bum. And I think that's going to be a similar thing here. Austin Lane, he is not no Waldo, where Waldo actually has a lot of MMA experience. He should have lost that fight, in my opinion, but he had that experience to gas out the bad boy and get it done. This guy's an absolute freak, being 6'7", 263 pounds. He's going to touch Austin one time, and Austin's going to go night-night. That is for sure. Austin is just as tall, but somehow doesn't seem as freakish as Rebelis. And Rebelis has not been knocked out as bad as Austin. So this is just screaming, hey, let's get Greg Hardy 2.0 out of here, send him to, slap boxing or whatever, and let's keep pumping up the bad boy, this absolute freak, and get him another KO finish.
Yeah, for sure. Great points. I mean, size-wise, they are pretty comparable, but as far as skill-wise on the feet, I mean, we know about Robelis Despain's extensive stand-up background, whereas Austin Lane was a lineman, and the big boy, the bad boy, is here for a rebound win, and you got to imagine that the UFC was giving them the worst available in order for Despain to secure that rebound, in fact. So in this one against Austin Lane, I think it's probably an absolute lock for Robelis Despain. 94% of Tapology is rolling with him as well. It's basically all Brown, so they think Austin Lane is getting slept, and 6% is taking Austin Lane. That is his friends and family, but Despain should be an absolute lock in this one. I mean, I think the under 1.5 is closer to like minus 250, so maybe you clench that over, hoping Austin Lane can somehow survive 7 minutes, but if history is a good indicator of what is to come, then it's unlikely he lasts even 7 seconds. So it's going to be a fun one. Should be funny while it lasts. And I like the idea of maybe Power Slap FC for Austin Lane, or perhaps you just put Austin Lane up against Greg Hardy in maybe a BKFC match, or maybe as the opening prelim boxing match on a Jake Paul card. Let those two bums go at it and hope for the double KO. But nonetheless, it's dead to rights for Austin Lane. We're taking Robelis. Do you like first round finish?
I do like first round finish. I think it's gonna be an early and often first rounder.
I buy that as well. First round, I think maybe Meat Boy, your under 60-second banger might be worth inspection as well, because I don't think Austin Lane can eat too many of those punches, and this will be the end of the road for the lane. But nonetheless, swap us through, Meat Boy. Another interesting one, maybe one of the more interesting ones on this fight card. Matthias Nicolau is a plus 160 dog, and he's 19-4-1, and I don't think a lot of people know this, but he's a respectable 9-3 in the UFC, and although he has been slept in 2 straight, those were against Alex Perez and against Brandon Royval, who we were just hyping up just earlier in the show. So we know that Nicolau is a tough guy. He's got some nice wins. This guy beat Manel Kopp in a close fight. He beat Matt Schnell, and he finished him early and often. So he has done some good things. I mean, Tim Elliott is another nice win, especially when he got that. So Nicolau at plus 160 perhaps might have some life in this one, but he's taking on Asu Almabayev, who is minus 192. The guy is 3-0 in the UFC. He's the former M1 Global Champ, the former NISA FC Champ. The dude was a champ everywhere he's been to and aims to become one in the UFC, but this is a new level. I mean, his wins are against Ode Osborne, CJ Vergara, and Jose Johnson, and while those are decent wins, I'm not quite sure that they touch the level of competition that Nicolau has faced. So With Nicolau's 9-3 UFC record, with his litany of experience, and as a plus 160 dog, do you see any life for him against Almabayev, the hype beast, or does the fact that Nicolau got slept in 2 straight contests keep you far away from this one?
Yeah, I definitely don't like Nicolau getting slept, two straight in a row. That's never a good look. But man, I almost feel like the disrespect because Nicolau was a top prospect at one point, um, and now it just seems that he's just not. Asu definitely been looking good. I don't know. This is definitely a tough one. But I gotta go. I don't like seeing 2 KOs in a row. I'm gonna go with Asu on this. I think he's gonna get it done after those brutalizing KOs that Nicolau has eaten. I just don't know if he's gonna recover. I think he's gonna have 2 bad KOs this year, and it's either BKFC next year or he's gonna take a 2-year hiatus and let that head heal because that's never a good look. But yeah, I like Asu in this. Great fighter. Nothing too crazy with KOs, but good tacticianer on the submissions and decisions. So I could see this being maybe a KO, but probably a decision dominance by Asu. And Nicolau's confidence is probably dwindling, and he doesn't perform like he should.
Yeah, I buy that for sure, especially after getting slept in 2 straight. And like you said, Almabayev isn't historically a knockout artist, but I mean, he's got 3 knockouts out of his, 19, out of his 20 victories. So not a lot there, but that might mean that you're getting juicy odds for that KO TKO for Almabayev, and perhaps he takes him down, starts to smash him, and ultimately Nicolau quits, maybe even taps 2 strikes. Because if he's eating a lot of unanswered shots, then he's probably gonna want to get the heck out of there. So maybe something worth inspection for sure, but Almabayev by decision is seemingly what Tapology thinks is going to happen, right? 81% is going with the Kazakh fighter. Only 19% is going with Nicolau. If you're taking Almabayev, how do you think he gets this one done? Is he going to really mix it up? I mean, we know these fighters from Kazakhstan, whether it's Shavkat Rakhmonov, whether it's that hype beast who just fought a couple weeks ago on Dana White Contender Series, who won by that brutal head kick. I mean, these guys are very well rounded and can beat you in a lot of ways. So how do you see Almabayev having the greater advantages over Nicolau? Where does he beat him specifically, would you say?
Yeah, I think he's just going to be a better fighter on the feet, on the ground. I mean, his record kind of speaks for itself, but he doesn't get snuffed 2 in a row like Nikolaya recently has, which is truly unfortunate. He's only been snuffed 1 time, and that was back in 2017, and he's been on an absolute tear since then. So I think this is kind of building up Asu. I think it's kind of like we'll see if this is that next levels test. He gets through this guy, okay, maybe future champ, or maybe previous champ is his next fight, and then see if he is championship material because this kid has a impressive record, and he only looks better and better every time we see him fight.
Yeah, for sure. Great points. I mean, if you go through Nicolau, then the next available is probably someone who was either a future champ or a future or was a past challenger. I mean, he's gonna get someone nice for sure. So in this one, I'll roll with you, Meat Boy. A little bit reluctantly, I'm taking Almabayev. I am curious to see what he looks like against such a high level fighter in Nicolau, though, because if Nicolau comes dialed, I mean, if he looks anything like the fighter who rifled off that beautiful 6 fight win streak and got wins over Manel Kopp and Tim Elliott, then this could be a fascinating fight. But you wonder how his headspace is, and you wonder how good Almabayev is, because he might be that next level. He might be that future champ, similar to the Tatsuro Taira of earlier that we mentioned. So I'm gonna take Almabayev. I'm gonna say he can't decide if I'm going decision or finish. So officially, I'll just say Almabayev finds a way to get this one done, but tread carefully because I do think that plus 160 for Nicolau does have a little bit of life. So I got Almabayev. Not sure by method of result. Are you taking Almabayev by finish, or are you sort of on the fence about that as well?
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me, but I think I'm gonna go with decision on this one for Almavive.
Yeah, for sure. Looks like we're both on Almabayev. He's the minus 192 favorite for a reason. So let us know in the comments. Are you riding with Nicolau, or is this an Alsu Alma Meatlock? Let us know, but swap us through, Meat Boy, because it's another one that features a former hype beast in Sumu Darji, who at plus 190 is now 3-3 in the UFC. He's lost 2 straight, got submitted in both. And one thing I found fascinating about this fight is that Sumu Darji 16-6. Fight against Charles Johnson, aka Energy, also 16-6. I mean, sometimes the UFC find ways to just make absolutely flawless matchups because these two dudes on paper are very similar. They're very skilled, but also have very obvious flaws. And Energy, I mean, don't look now, but the dude has won 3 fights in a row, and this guy keeps cashing as a dog, but in this fight finds himself as a minus 230 favorite with the odds makers simply jumping off the Sumu Darji ship as fast as they could. So, are you a little bit worried that Energy not being the dog that he's used to being in this fight and instead being a pretty sizable favorite has upset potential and perhaps the return of Sumu is next? Or is Sumu Darji simply never going to win another UFC fight?
Yeah, Sumu, he was pretty hyped up to start, and man, the last two fights have not aged well because these two fighters, uh, I wouldn't say they're very looked at as being all these top 130 guys or top fighters in the division, top 125ers. I don't know. It just hasn't been looking good for Sue. Sue's losing to small guys. He's losing to the same size as him guys. And Charles, he's finally getting that love. But Sue was a threat in the beginning. I just don't know if he is anymore. And it seems like energy's peaking right now. Ever since he got that Olympic tattoo, it's like he is an Olympian, even though he's never been. So I don't know. Until that tattoo gets wiped off, I think he is a true Olympian, energy American, and I think he's going to get it done this weekend.
That's a great point. As soon as he got that ink, he literally has not lost, and he's been picking up decent wins. I mean, Azat Maxim, pretty well rounded. He was a decent dog, got that one done. Jake Hadley, we just saw him a few months ago, looked great in his fight, and was actually supposed to be fighting on this card, but unfortunately had to pull out. But Jake Hadley, perhaps in a win that's aging pretty nicely, and then Joshua Van, most recently, put him to absolute sleep, and that fight was pretty close. I mean, some might argue Van might have gotten that one done if it went the distance, but Energy, tough as nails, always finding ways to survive. And against a guy like Sumu Darji, who I don't want to say he quits, but he's able to be finished when he can't finish you in the early moments. And so if he doesn't find a way to put him out early and often, like he did against Malcolm Gordon, right? I think that's if you're bullish on Sumu Darji, the Malcolm Gordon performance is sort of what you're hoping for in this one against Energy, because when Energy does lose, he loses potentially by split decision and not always early. So I don't really even know if that's a path. Now that I really think about it, I don't even know if Sumu by early finish has any life as well. So for me, Meatball, I've been trying to find a way to rationalize picking Sumu Darji, but on paper, there's literally nothing that screams Sumu Darji gets this one done. So if I'm sort of on the fence, which I thought I was, is there anything you could give the viewers to a potential Sumu Darji upset, or is he really just gonna get steamrolled and this is truly the end of the Tibetan Eagle?
I think the only way he wins is by a flashy YOLO KO first round. If not, I think Energy's going to pull his classic, almost gets knocked out, and then just beats the guy up and gets better and better as the fight goes on. The longer the fight goes, Energy's going to start peaking near the end. That's what he always does. It's a classic Energy Olympian move.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's got to be a flashy early YOLO, and based on Charles Johnson's history, he doesn't really lose that way. So I'm glad we fleshed this one out because I was kind of leaning Tibetan Eagle, but the more we talk about it, the more we discuss pathways. Tibetan Eagle, I don't know if that dude has any pathway to win any fight because, I mean, I even think about that fight against Matt Schnell where he couldn't even get that one done, and Matt Schnell was literally dead to rights and has been dead to rights since that moment, yet still Tibetan Eagle found a way to lose that fight too. So not a lot of love for Sumu Darji. There used to be. At one point, we were awfully bullish, but at this point, we got to see it to believe it, as Topuria might say. But I'll take Energy Johnson as well. Do you think Energy gets the finish in this one?
Um, yeah, I'm gonna go with yes. He's due for a good finish, an easy knockout. I think this will be one of those.
I buy that too. Tapology is overwhelmingly bullish on Energy, 91% going with Charles Johnson, and majority is beige for the decision, so they think that somehow Sumu will survive 15 minutes, but we haven't seen that recently, so let's go Energy by finish. Let us know in the comments, are we missing this dog lock for the Tibetan Eagle, or do you kind of agree that the Sumu story is Dunzo Balunzo? Let us know for sure. We both got Energy. Swap us through though, Meat Boy, because This one's fascinating. It's the co-meet event and a great opportunity for Kyler Phillips, aka the Matrix, aka Tame Impala, to continue his win streak, to capitalize as a minus 440 favorite, which is kind of crazy. And I'll get your thoughts on it in a second. But if we really look at the Matrix's resume, it's quite impressive. The dude is 7-1 in the UFC. His lone loss was a controversial majority decision against Raulian Paiva in a fight of the night that I think most people thought Kyler Phillips won. And then in his 12-2 record, the only other loss was a split decision against Victor Henry. And most people thought Victor Henry should have lost that one as well. So we might be dealing with a 14-0 fighter in Kyler Phillips, potentially if some judges' outcomes were a little bit more equitable. But he's taking on Rob Font, who is 20-8 overall. At one point, had won 4 fights straight in the UFC. He had won 5 of 6, and even had some nice wins over guys like Ricky Simone, a peak Ricky Simone, and even beat Cody No Love at one point. But can't ignore the fact that this dude's lost 4 of 5. He does have the one finish in there, though, and it was against Adrian Yanez in a performance of the night fight where everyone counted him out and he was a sizable dog. So in this one, against a guy like Kyler Phillips, do you see any life for Rob Font as a plus 340 dog, or is the Matrix simply that good, that well rounded, and Rob Font, like he has been doing a lot lately, is going to get smoked by him as well?
Oh, yeah, I mean, Rob Font is no joke, and it's pretty crazy to see these odds, to be honest. It's like Rob Font, he's reached the pinnacle of the division, top three, top five guy. Is Kyler Phillips really the guy to dethrone and take over? I don't know. I mean, Kyler Phillips, he's had his ups and downs. He has been looking good recently. But is he looking better than Rob Font? Like if Rob Font shows up, right? If Rob Font's just a bum now and we've all accepted it because he lost to, I don't know, the last two best fighters in the division, aka Corey Sandhagen and Figgy. I don't really think he's a bum to lose to those two guys. Uh, I honestly could see a Kyler being similar to Adrian Yanez, where he's sniffing the fruits of labor, but he gets a bag of flaming turds instead because Rob Font is gonna make him crumble on the big screen. So I gotta go Rob on this. I like these odds. I like these odds. I like the matchup. I think the longer the fight goes, Rob's just going to decimate, and he's going to throw that crisp boxing while Kyler's throwing kicks that are going to be whiffing and gassing him out.
Yeah, great stuff. Does he crumble on the big screen? I think is the official question of the evening for sure. But I guess my only pushback would be like if we're trying to make the comparison between Adrian Yanez and Kyler Phillips and trying to create some sort of connection as two hype beasts who didn't really deserve the praise they were getting, my only pushback would be when we saw Adrian Yanez pick up finish after finish. I mean, he was fighting guys like Tony Kelly, guys like the Alaskan Bullworm, guys like Randy Costa, like really bad fighters. So to me, those victories were never quite as impressive as the ones that Kyler Phillips has gotten, which include, if we remember, Song Yadong. I mean, that was a very close fight. It was in 2021, and I think some might maybe thought Song won it, but Kyler on paper got the unanimous decision in that one, and then he did the exact same thing as Pedro Munoz when they fought just about 6 months ago. So to me, Song Yadong, Pedro Munoz, those guys are way better than Randy Costa and the Bullworm. So perhaps that would be my only pushback to the comparison to Yanez. But if you look at Tapology, they're pretty bullish on the Matrix, right? So 84% is going with Kyler. It's very beige, so they think that if Kyler gets this one done, that it's by a sneaky decision. If you're taking Rob Font in this one, it sounds like you are. Let me know if you're not. How do you think he gets this one done? Is it a close decision? Any chance he finishes Kyler? I mean, we've never seen Kyler get finished, and he's never really been in danger of getting finished. And we also don't know Rob Font as that much of a lethal finisher himself. But if we're making that Giannis comparison, Rob Font finished Giannis. Does he finish Kyler Phillips?
Man, I don't know. Kyler Phillips doesn't really get finished, but it would not surprise me. It just depends if the bag is on fire and there's dung inside. I don't know. We'll see if he crumbles at the knees on the big screen. But I gotta take Rob on this. Rob is a true veteran. He's fought the best of the best, recently, and he really knows what it takes. Pedro Munoz is probably his best win in my opinion for Kyler Phillips, but I just don't know. Pedro's getting older. Rob might. I guess we'll see. We'll see if Rob peaked from those last two losses, and Kyler runs through him. But I gotta imagine that Rob still has this. So I'm gonna go Rob on this one. Especially these odds, the disrespect, it is crazy. So I still have some hope. Clearly, nobody else has hope for Rob's ability.
Yeah, I don't blame you scoping those odds for sure, because I do agree with you that plus 340 is a little bit disrespectful for Rob Font. I think he should be closer to maybe plus 200, plus 210 range in this one, but the odds makers have spoken. Kyler Phillips is the sizable favorite, and in this one, Meepo, I don't think there's much to play from a Kyler Phillips moneyline perspective, but I do think Kyler Phillips finds a way to get this one done. It's probably by decision. It's probably a fight that maybe is kind of close, and if you are laying the chalk on Kyler by the end of it, you're probably going to be sweating because the rounds will be very close. But in the end, I see Kyler getting either a unanimous or split decision victory over Rob Font, who at 37, who at a fat L streak. I just don't think against these young guns, these up and comers, that he's going to be able to beat those guys at this point in his career. But maybe this is the level that the Matrix hasn't run into yet, and Rob Font just has been facing a lot of tough top five guys and still has something left in the tank, like you are saying. So let us know in the comments if you're taking Tame Impala, Kyler Phillips, or is Rob Font going to cash as a dog? But I got Kyler decision. You got Rob Font by
Rob Font by decision.
decision nonetheless. Let us know in the comments if you agree with either, but swap us through, Meat Boy, because you saw the intro, you saw all the love that Michelle Pajeda was getting from us, but you might be surprised to get this take because we also have plenty of love for Fluffy Hernandez. So I'm curious to get your perspective on this one. Michelle Pajeda is riding a beautiful 8-fight win streak. The dude hasn't lost since he technically took the L to Diego Sanchez in a fight that obviously he won, but the one loss prior to that was against Boonstonk. It was in Michelle Pajeda's backflipping debut, essentially, where he sent the backflips. He crushed the over on the intro backflips and gassed out in the first round, lost two Boonstonks. But since then, the guy is picking up bonus after bonus, finish after finish. I mean, he's got 3 straight first round finishes and hasn't eclipsed over 3 total minutes in those 3 fights put together. So he's putting up some Robelis to Spain type numbers, but he's taking on Fluffy, who himself is riding a beautiful 5-fight win streak, himself is riding a 3-fight finish streak, and who also got a performance of the night finish most recently against Roman Kopylov in a fight that a lot of people thought Kopylov had some life in. I think we thought that Roman had a little bit more life than he had. I can't remember who we picked, but the odds makers were pretty bullish on Roman in that one, and Fluffy proved to them that he is the actual future champ, not Roman Copy no lock. So in this one against Michelle Pajeda, we obviously love the flipper, we love Demolidor, but at plus 114, is he going to succumb to what Fluffy is offering, or does Michelle Pajeda do what he has been doing to everyone, even to a guy like Anthony Hernandez? Who you take?
Yeah, I'm pretty torn on this one. I like both these guys. Both these guys are the real deal. And man, Fluffy is just so good. Like, this year, 2024, has been absolutely the year of Alex Pereira. I mean, Alex Pereira has absolutely taken this year, doing absolutely amazing, beautiful things in the sport. And it just blows my mind on how amazing he's been performing. Next year, I'm calling it bold prediction 2025. It is going to be the year of the Fluffy or the Pereira. This is really the make it or break it on the on who's the best in this division. I think one of these guys are bound to be champion, and I'm so torn. I can't go away and fade my boy Michelle, even though a part of me kind of wants to because I respect and know how good Fluffy has gotten and is, but I think Michelle Pereira is going to get it done. One Pereira took over in 2024, and another Pereira is going to take over in 2025, and it will be the flipper era.
Yeah, I like that a lot, and I don't think it's the craziest take ever because they share the same last name, they share that similar killer instinct, and they both keep getting better and better in every single fight, despite having impressed you tremendously in the last iteration. So I don't think that you're missing anything there at all, Meat Boy, and I do think that perhaps Hernandez is also that guy, right? I agree with you that this could be that fight that really elevates the guy and takes them to that next perhaps championship level, but if you are taking Pereira, I mean, What, or if you are taking Michelle Pereira, what is it that you like stylistically against him? Is it the fact that, I mean, ever since Michelle has gone up to 185, that's when he's gotten the 3 straight 1 minute finishes, right? Your boy Petrosky smoked early and often. My boy Michel Oleksiejczuk smoked even earlier, even more often, and Ihor Potieria, nobody's boy, got smoked in 54 seconds. And all these fights were at 185, and it seems like not having to complete that gnarly weight cut down to 170 has been huge for Pajeda. But if you look at Anthony Hernandez, I mean, this guy's 185, but you might argue that he walks around at 185. This is a guy who doesn't cut a whole lot of weight and seemingly is a natural 85er in there. And I mean, his nickname is Fluffy for a reason. He's not the most imposing guy physically, yet when he gets these guys down, he smushes them. He's way stronger than you think. He's like deceptively stronger than most guys he fights. So in this one against Pajeda, how do you see Pajeda having the advantages, and do you see him having a strength advantage over Fluffy? Because physically on the scales, he's going to look like he will, but will he?
It's a good question, and yeah, it seems that Fluffy can manhandle and absolutely smother everyone he fights, but Pereira is no joke, and he's a big boy, and his grappling is arguably just as good, maybe better. We will find out who has the better grappling. Striking, man, same thing. They're both such good strikers. Maybe Pereira might have him a little bit better there. I don't know. It's such a toss-up for me right now. I'm slightly leaning on the Pereira win. But this really is anyone's fight. This is such a fun fight. Cannot wait. And man, it really tears me inside because Fluffy is no joke, and this could be a mauling on his side, but also Pereira could be mauling on his side too. It's gonna be a very tough fight for both of these guys, but I think Pereira is going to be able to outstrength him. The only thing I worry about is we know Fluffy's gas tank's gonna go the whole time. Can Pereira keep that strength and his gas up with Fluffy? That is a big question if it gets to that point on the grappling. I'm very curious on where this fight will even take place. It might be a whole stand-up fight. I don't know. I'm super excited, but this is gonna be crazy.
Yeah, it's gonna be crazy for sure. And the gas take, I do think, is a good point. However, both these guys, I mean, this is new territory for both. It's their first meet event. It's their first scheduled 5 round fight. So who knows? Let's see what Fluffy looks like in the 4th round. Let's see what Fluffy looks like in the 5th round, because he is a guy who has a crazy pace, and I'm curious to see if he can withstand it for 25 minutes. I lean with you that he can, because all indications suggest this is a CEO type guy when it comes to the gas tank. But who knows what it looks like in the later rounds? And another interesting point I think to make is that Fluffy is a guy who historically wins by finish, right? This guy has 12 total wins and 10 of them are by finish, whereas if you look at Pereira's losses, he has 11 losses but has only been finished twice. So I'm curious to see if Fluffy can even win a decision against Pereira or if it's finish or bust for him. But my last question to you, Meat Boy, is Tapology is overwhelmingly bullish on Pereira, and I found that to be pretty fascinating because initially Hernandez was closer to a minus 160 favorite, and the odds have since narrowed a bit, but Tapology is pretty bullish on Demolidor, and basically all the 63% is Brown for the KO. So they think Fluffy is coming to this meat event and is going to crumble under the big lights and get finished via KO. Do you buy that for Pereira? Do you think that his best pathway is that KO TKO, or are you taking it on an alternative method if you're rolling with Michelle?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go with either decision or maybe KO. If he submits Fluffy, I will be very impressed, but I don't know. I don't think I see it. But yeah, I think decision's most likely. If Fluffy finishes Pereira, dude, future champ all over it. Like I don't think he's gonna finish him, but yeah, I think whoever wins, it's gonna be decision. But I'm gonna lean on Pereira on this one.
Yeah, that's why I'm excited that this fight is 5 rounds because, my head goes to decision as well. But, I mean, if this fight is 5 scheduled 5 minute rounds, you wonder if someone's getting finished before we even get to that point. And honestly, me boy, that's kind of where I'm leaning. I hate to fade Pereira because we always ride Michel Pereira. We are always riding Demolidor, one of our favorite fighters in the UFC, frankly. But I don't know, something tells me that Hernandez, as what's going to be probably a pick 'em by the time this fight actually happens, I think there's going to be some juicy value there. And when this becomes a dog fight, just a battle of wills, Anthony Hernandez versus Michel Pereira, I wonder if Michel Pereira is more there to have a good time, whereas Hernandez is more there to secure a belt and just be a crazed lunatic on an absolute mission. Because Fluffy to me might be one of those dudes who is just built a little bit different and who essentially at this point in their career refuses to lose. So we'll see what this fight looks like, but I'm gonna take Anthony Hernandez. I'm gonna take him by finish. I think that ultimately finds a way to put Pereira out, whether it's by smothering TKO on the ground or by one of his patented submissions. I just think this is the Fluffy era, and I think Pereira might. I don't know if he's future champ, but I do believe he has a high ceiling. I just happen to think that Fluffy's ceiling is ever so slightly higher. So I'm gonna take Anthony Hernandez. I'm gonna take him by finish, and on Tapology, 37% is taken Fluffy, and it's basically all copper for the sub. So if you were attempting to make a case for Hernandez, do you agree with Tapology that submission is probably his best pathway against Imolator?
Man, I don't know if he submits De La Malador, that is crazy because he's a no joke, legit grappling black belt. But going off of Fluffy's record, probably he did submit Rodolfo Vieira, who's like a 30-time black belt jiu-jitsu. So if he can submit him, he can really submit anybody. So yeah, most likely if he does get a win, it probably is that, to be honest.
Yeah, it's a great point, right? He took out Rodolfo Vieira. The black belt hunter ultimately became purple belt hunted, and that was a beautiful finish. And Rodolfo's been looking great since then, right? I don't think he's even lost a fight, and that dude keeps getting finish after finish as well. So Fluffy's a guy that people I still think are sleeping on, but after this weekend they won't anymore, Meat Boy. So I'm taking Fluffy by finish. Ultimately, in this one, it's UC Vegas 99. We broke down 6 last week. I went 4-2. You went 3-3. After this week, the Meatlock cashes, of course, but of the 6, what's your record?
Oh, I think I'm gonna go 5-1 on this one.
5-1 for us both, Meat Boy. Let's hope that the 1L is not the Meatlock, but obviously that will not be the case because the pit is coming to absolutely put the damage on Darren. But some fun fights. Let us know in the comments who you are rolling with. Do you agree with any of the takes? Do you disagree with them? Are you hammering the Meatlock? Let us know. We always appreciate the engagement. And any last thoughts, Meat Boy?
No, this is a pretty solid fight. Definitely fun for the hardcores, and there will be a few juicy ones for the Kazi. So yeah, stay tuned. Check out the next week's video coming up. Smash that me subscribe and stay tuned.